In this video, we're tackling one of the hottest Snowflake topics in interviews, that is dynamic tables. Instead of definitions, I'll walk you through real interview questions and show you how to answer them effectively, so you'll know exactly how to demonstrate hands-on experience and stand out in your interviews. Let's dive in. Do you use dynamic tables? If yes, can you explain where and how you use them? Interviewers ask this to see if you have practical, hands-on experience with dynamic tables. Let's look at a few sample answers.
Sample answer 1. Yes, I use dynamic tables in our retail analytics project. We had streaming order events landing in Snowflake ingested from Kafka into raw landing tables. We use dynamic tables to build incremental transformations on top of this raw data and apply business rules. Instead of setting up multiple tasks for refreshes, Snowflake automatically tracked dependencies and refreshed the dynamic tables based on the target_lag we defined. This really simplified how we handled our streaming pipelines.
Sample answer 2. Yes, I used dynamic tables at our data layer. I replaced several task-based pipelines with dynamic tables, particularly for low-latency dashboards. Previously, we had a chain of scheduled tasks that refreshed staging and reporting tables. Managing dependencies, failures, and retries was a lot of overhead. By migrating to dynamic tables, Snowflake handled the refresh automatically and guaranteed data freshness within the defined lag. This not only reduced operational complexity, but also improved reliability. Business users saw fresher data in dashboards, and our team spent less time maintaining pipeline schedules.
You can see, both answers focus on where dynamic tables were used and how they simplified real pipelines, whether in streaming use cases or dashboard refreshes. That's exactly what interviewers are looking for: clear, practical examples of hands-on experience. All right, what are the key components of a dynamic table definition? This is a straightforward question, more fact-based than experience-based. Interviewers want to check if you know the basic building blocks of a dynamic table. A clear answer is:
every dynamic table has a few key components. First, it has a name, which is simply the identifier of the table. Then, it has a target lag, which defines how fresh the data in the table needs to be. Next, there's the warehouse, which is the compute resource responsible for running the refresh operations. Finally, the query definition specifies how the dynamic table is populated. So, in short, each dynamic table has a name, a query that defines it, a warehouse that runs it, and a target lag that controls its data freshness.
This type of question is more about fundamentals. A strong candidate won't overcomplicate it. They'll give a crisp list of components, and if appropriate, ask the interviewer if they'd like to hear an example. Here's the next one. How does Snowflake determine when to refresh a dynamic table?
Snowflake uses the target lag you define on a dynamic table to decide when to refresh it. The system continuously monitors upstream changes and refreshes the dynamic table whenever its data becomes older than the target lag you set. There are 3 types of target lag. 1. Time-based lag. You set a specific time, like 5 minutes or 1 hour, and Snowflake refreshes the table to make sure its data is never older than that. 2. Downstream lag. The dynamic table refreshes in coordination with any dependent dynamic tables. 3. Unlimited. No strict freshness requirement is set. The table refreshes only when resources are available or when upstream data changes, but there's no guarantee on how fresh the data will be. So essentially, target lag controls when a dynamic table refreshes, ensuring data stays as fresh as you need.
That's the answer. Notice that this question is about fundamentals. Interviewers aren't testing advanced design skills here. They just want to see if you know the basic building blocks of a dynamic table. A good answer lists the components clearly, without over-explaining. Next up, can you explain the role of target lag in dynamic tables? This question is similar to the previous one, but here the focus shifts specifically to target lag. Here's how you can answer. Target lag defines how fresh the data in a dynamic table should be. In other words, it specifies the maximum acceptable delay between the dynamic table and its upstream data sources. For example, if the target lag is set to 5 minutes, Snowflake ensures that the data in the dynamic table is never more than 5 minutes behind the source. This gives you a balance between freshness and cost. Shorter lags give near real-time data, but require more frequent refreshes, while longer lags reduce compute consumption. Target lag is a trade-off between freshness and cost. The shorter the lag, the fresher the data, but it comes with higher compute usage. On the other hand, longer lags reduce compute consumption, but the data may not be as fresh. This question digs deeper into whether you know the practical impact of target lag, not just what it is, but how it impacts. Let's get to the next interview question. How would you check the last refresh status and history of a dynamic table?
I use the Dynamic Table Refresh History function from the information schema to check the refresh status and history of a dynamic table. By querying this view, I can see when the last refresh occurred, how long it took, and whether it completed successfully. This is essential for monitoring, troubleshooting, and making sure my dynamic tables meet the desired freshness requirements.
That wraps up the basics of Snowflake interview questions on dynamic tables. Next, I'll be covering intermediate and advanced topics to help you get fully prepared. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned.